So a lot of you have asked questions about the house in Loja. I'm going to put the link to that video down below if you want to go back and check it out. I'm also going to put some links on some things that happened with that house that were a little frightening at the time. Now that looking back, we know what it was, not that big a deal. But then I'm about to go into these questions, trying to answer them for you all so that just in case you're looking towards Loja, Ecuador, or anything like that, we can help you out. How much was that house? That house rented, we rented it for $1,300 a month. I think later she listed it for lower after we left there, but I'm sorry. Okay, so my husband just came and let me know that yes, it was $1,000 that she listed it for later. However, we had it inspected by some engineers and found out that it was not safe. There was something structurally wrong with the house. So I was a little surprised that she listed it again, knowing what we had told her, but you know, these are things that you really have to watch for when you are in really anywhere, even in the US, you got to watch for these types of things. So just keep your eye out. Don't trust anybody. Double check everything. I'm an accountant, so as I always say to my employees, you know, trust but verify. So just make sure you do that. So that one, like I said earlier, was $1,300. Now, we were looking at another one that was on the opposite side of the city. Very busy highway, but absolutely beautiful, kind of an old world style, bigger home. I think it was at least one more bedroom, if not two. And that one, they had it listed for $1,200. We were going to offer $1,000, but they were thinking about selling it, and we just didn't want to wait a year to find out if we could get this place. My father-in-law had a studio apartment towards downtown, I would say. He was pretty close. He needed to be within walking distance of everything as he's 90, so we wanted to make sure it was nice and safe. He was on the bottom floor. We went to a ton of different places to find him this apartment, and that studio was about $180. And then for a while we had to rent two apartments, one on top of the other. The location was rather nice. It was right there by the park. I can't remember the name of the park. Hipiro Park, which is the largest in the city. Very cool looking park. And that one, it was each apartment was a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, living, kind of a dine kitchen combination. And each apartment was $440 each, so we paid $880 for 2 apartments on top of the other, one on top of the other. So that's kind of the rents that we saw. How did we find it? I advise everyone, do not try and look for rentals on your own. If you're looking to buy, which I would never advise, but if you're looking to buy, don't do that on your own either. Find an agent. We found a real estate agent, just like you have agents in the US that will find you rental properties, the same thing here. So you can find an agent. The homeowner is actually the ones that pay for these agents. So the agents are specific to the listings that they have. So if that listing is not theirs, then you may have to go to a different agent to see that one. There's a website called OLX. I would advise you to look at that. It is in Spanish, so just kind of get ready for that. It's a part of your life if you're moving here, but it's definitely worth it. We found more on Facebook and OLX than we did, on any other website, so those two are pretty good. And OLX is more local. It's more locally used, so it's just a little easier to find places and to at least find the agents. Does that still protect you? No. You have to make sure that you protect yourself, but it's easier to find the places, and they'll drive you around and take you to the different places. Just be ready, because sometimes they're bad about not showing up or getting there and then not having made any of the phone calls that they needed to make sure that they can get into the places. So, they may set one, but then they don't think about the schedule and make sure that the other ones are ready to go. So it's not like dealing with realtors in the US. Don't expect that unless you're dealing with an American, which there is a company that's US based, but I think they do all sales. I don't think they do much rentals. We did sign a year-long lease, but you can sign shorter ones and you can get out of them. We were able to get out of our lease because there were so many problems, but we did have to forfeit the deposit. She didn't give it back. But There's other things about that caused us to not have any recourse and get that deposit back, even though we absolutely should have. But I'll talk about that in just a minute. Are there very many expats in Loja? So it depends. A lot of people feel like, Cuenca is the place for all the expats, and this is where everybody is. And it's true, there are a ton of Americans. Rarely can I go downtown and not see at least one American walking around or in a cafe or something. You'll see them more. I was closer to the expats in Loja. I don't know, for families, I guess for me, it's a little bit different. I found more families in Loja that were expat or at least spoke English than I find families here. Most are retirees or singles. But if you're single, if you're a retiree, you'll probably find it. I know that there's at least a couple of bars that are practically all Americans. There's several restaurants. There's a Thai place that I love that speaks English, things like that. So are there expats in Loja? Absolutely, and you can find them. And if you move there, let me know. I'll tell you of a great church to go to and how you can meet up with some people there and just build community and stuff like that. But you're not going to be like you would in Cuenca, where you just go downtown and you're going to see an American there. Not near as many English-speaking locals, although you will find them. I do advise a place called Otello for hamburgers. Fabulous. And the owner does speak English, though he learned it in Germany, of all places. But so you'll find it every once in a while, but you find it a lot more over here. And over here you find even taxi drivers, people at the supermarket that speak English, and it's just a little easier to get around. Though I advise you, and this is firsthand knowledge, guys, because I don't speak Spanish, learn it. At least learn the basics. Learn your numbers, learn directions, right and left, learn just the very basics to at least be able to get around. Otherwise, you're just going to be a homebody and never go out. So just make sure that you have that and that you're secure in being able to go out and talk. And Lord knows it's easy. Get Google Translate. That one's been a lifesaver for me because it'll even talk for you if you need to. Okay, so a few things that people didn't quite ask on, but I just want to volunteer this information. So first off, why did that house not work out? Okay. One, maintenance, awful. When you come to a foreign country, especially a South American country, get ready for culturally things to be done very differently. And especially here in Ecuador, people go at their own pace. They'll tell you Tuesday, that means maybe Tuesday, maybe Thursday, maybe next week. Just don't bank on that to happen. Though in Cuenca, I find it more often that people do abide by the times or the dates, things like that, than I found in Loja. But still, even here, we have trouble. I mean, we'll have somebody building something for us, and they'll tell us that it'll be ready in a week, and it's a month later, and we're going, what happened? And then it's just excuse after excuse. So maintenance was awful, and dealing with a landlord here, I have heard horror story after horror story after horror story. So when it comes to maintenance, make sure that you are either prepared to wait forever for it to get done or never get done, or do it yourself. The way that we did here is when we got this house. So you remember I told you that the other one was $1,300 a month? Here, we pay $600 a month. And this house is a 6-bedroom, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 full baths and another half bath, 2 living areas, 2 dining areas. It has a full patio, a barbecue, full built-in barbecue area. It's beautiful. There's a video that I'll link down below where I just kind of took you through this house. If you look at the stairs, it's like 7 landings, but it's almost like a 3.5 story, I guess is the way that you would see it. So, I mean, it's fabulous, and we pay, less than half of what we did over there now, but we're paying less because we negotiated in that we're going to take care of all the maintenance. We'll take care of the house, everything that needs to happen, we're going to do it. And there's a couple of reasons why we did that. One, I don't have to wait on them, because that drives me crazy. Two, we can choose when, how, and where it happens. So we had to have some electrical done, some plumbing done. We repainted a few areas. Just be careful when you put in maintenance because, it's not yours forever. But, we didn't do anything totally drastic. I resurfaced some cabinets in the kitchen because it looked like this weird circus blue and white thing. But, like, the plumber, I had to have him come out 3 times because a couple of things, even though he said he fixed it, there was another problem with it. And so I was able to get him back out again, and he came back out like within the next day or next couple of days. I was able to choose a guy that, he spoke English, he was trained in the United States, he knew what the heck he was talking about, so it wasn't like rigged up in some weird funky way, because even he was saying, look, don't expect to see things done here the way that they would in the US. In the US in plumbing, they use hard PVC, right? Here they'll use those flex things, and he said it just gets all kinds of kinked and nasty, and it doesn't drain well sometimes. So, you with the maintenance, you have to know what you're working with, who you're working with, and just be ready to negotiate and stuff like that, or pay an extra amount if you're doing it yourself, but at least it's on your terms, and then you don't have to worry about waiting forever and getting really, really frustrated. So that's the maintenance that you need to think through. Contract issues. So another thing that you have to think through is your contract. Make sure that you read it well, and if you do not speak Spanish, find a translator and let them kind of walk through, an attorney, something, so that they can walk through it with you. You can easily be taken advantage of with the contracts. We got ours with that first place and didn't realize when we signed it that there was a stipulation in there that if anything was wrong, we could not just have her fix it. We had to take her to court on absolutely everything. So we lost our deposit because we would have had to take her to court to get the deposit back. There's not like a renters association or anything like that to cover you. It was just basically we would have to pay out the same amount that we were going to get back, so what's the point, and it was just a pain, and if we would have stayed there longer, and if I was a little bit more vindictive, I probably would have done it just to spite, but it wasn't worth it, and I didn't want to deal with it. There is not this whole, what would you call it, sound, noise pollution. There's no such thing here. So, if you do not like the sound of barking dogs, don't move to South America. Just don't. Just unless you're going to be away from all society, away from anyone within earshot, don't come, because dogs bark all the time. I'm surprised I don't hear them barking right now. My neighbor has like 10 dogs over there, and every time somebody walks down the street, there they go. I've got, let's see, yep, I cannot think of one neighbor that doesn't have a dog, and all of them bark, and mine do too. And so, because they hear everybody else barking, and as much as I try to train them not to bark, when they hear all the 50 million dogs barking around, and I have a husky, so she starts to cry along with the howls that are out there, there's not a whole lot that I can do about it. So, and they'll bark all hours of the night, and they won't stop them. They'll just let them go, and I guess they just sleep through it. So if that bothers you, either get a sound machine or don't come to South America. Another part of noise pollution is that pay attention to where you're going to live. So when you find a place, oh, this is my dream spot, this is where I want to be, go at night, go during the day, go around the neighborhood. Walk around, drive around, whatever it is that you're going to do with the windows down, whatever, but listen. Listen for dogs barking, how many there are. Listen for the horns honking, and pay attention to it, because when you're trying to watch your favorite movie and you can't hear it because of the horns, it's going to drive you crazy. See if there are any restaurants nearby that play music. You can be in a beautiful neighborhood and the guy next door runs a restaurant out of his garage, and it just happens. There's no zoning here, so they can do that, and they'll blare music, and it just, they'll have a band at 3 o'clock in the morning. Pay attention to those kinds of things. Soccer fields, anything that has a soccer field nearby, get ready for them to be going through midnight, playing music in their cars and playing soccer out there. That's one of the problems that we had with that house, is there was a soccer field that was just at the base of the hill, and every single Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes during the week, it was just over past midnight, and they're blaring music down there, and everybody's screaming and hollering and everything. So, and then pay attention to kids. If you don't want screaming kids running around your neighborhood, pay attention to who's around you, just because they will. Kids are screaming out, crying out, making noises, and the parents don't make them be quiet. So noise pollution is an issue if it's going to bother you, so pay attention to that. If you're like my dad and just pop out your hearing aids, then you're good to go. But make sure that you're paying attention to that if it's a problem for you. Another thing that I hear about is the internet. Watch what is said in the neighborhoods. Here in Cuenca, I have extremely high-speed internet. I get about 175 to 200 megs per second, which is phenomenal. Where I am with fiber optic. They have fiber optic all throughout Ecuador, and I do mean just like everywhere, even in these tiny bitty little villages and stuff. But I have heard even in Cuenca where people are like, oh, it sucks. And I'm like, really? Mine's fantastic. It never drops. It's always fast. I live stream and my kids live stream all day long because they homeschool live streaming with their teacher. And we never have any problems. Everything runs perfectly. One of the things about that house that we weren't crazy about is if you go look at the video, if you can see out the window of that living room, you can actually see that there's a cell phone tower within yards of the house. That was a concern. And it ended up being in just one of those things that was just always in the back of our minds. We had young kids and it's like, oh, I don't like that we're so close. But it was like, what's the toss up here? In Loja, you are not gonna find a whole lot of choices for rentals. So, pay attention to those kind of health concerns that you may have. So that's pretty much everything that you guys had asked about that house. I'm gonna kind of talk about the differences between Loja and Cuenca here in a moment, some of the pros and cons of both places. And that way you guys can get a better idea of what we have seen so that you can make the best choice for you and your family. So thanks for watching, guys.